Ranya Akacha, thank you so much for joining me today. And for all my guests, I want you to know just how grateful I am to Ranya for being here today because we've had a very interesting journey in attempting to get on to do this interview with a lot of tech breakdowns on my part. And so here we finally are. Ranya, so thank you. And I do really want to start by letting our guests know about what it is that you do. What is your genius? Simply put, why are you here?
Good question. So we run a consulting business at the moment, and I guess our mission, or what we're trying to do, is turn around that stat where they say, 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 5 businesses fail in the first 5 years, and we want to flip that on its head and really help, especially small business owners, families, and people like that become successful in their businesses in an efficient way, in a way that I guess helps them achieve what they want to achieve, but also help them help their clients, help them service their clients at the right levels, etc. So yeah, I guess it's just about supporting small business owners and predominantly family owned businesses is
Mm.
our mission.
And so, just for our listeners, I think, clearly, evidently, if you're a business owner, you're going to find this incredibly valuable. But one of the things that I know about Rania that we're going to get into today is that Rania made the exit out of a big corporate job and then had children and then navigated that journey. And there's been many successful iterations of that. So, I also know, Rania, that, we are dealing with a lot of challenges in the traditional, corporate environment. And there are a lot of people I've spoken to who, have these ideas of wanting to go out and start a business. But it is scary because, like you say, those statistics are alarming.
They are correct, and I think so. The way I did it, I guess, when I was in corporate, it's a nice safety blanket, right? You're there and you're getting paid your salary. You're doing things that you're predominantly comfortable with. There's maternity leave and all that, but then there's parts of it that don't fit around mum life, and I'm sure you're aware of that too. Where I think I was telling you this last time was I'd be on my day off and be on the phone on a meeting on the phone in the car, and bribing my poor kids in the back to be quiet, and giving them a lollipop so they can be quiet so I can have this meeting on my day off, which they know
Yes.
is my day off, but I'm still having this meeting. And if I'm not part of that meeting, I'll miss an important part of the project or an important part of the implementation or whatever it was. So I didn't really have a choice in the matter to not be a part of it. So as much as they try to support, I think there's still a lot that needs to be done in that space for it to really fit into mum life or parent life, I think. But what I did to move into, I guess, the business world is I created a bit of a buffer for me. So I kind of put some money aside and kind of saved up 6 months worth of my salary to put aside and said, I'm just going to give this a go for 6 months. And I took leave without pay for that
Wow.
period. So I didn't, and because I'd been at Qantas for a long time, they were open to giving me that leave. And I thought, I'm going to give it a good crack for 6 months. I've got the salary to cover us if need be. And I'm, can give this a red hot go. And I had a budget, and I was really sort of particular and organized with it. And yeah, and it worked out, thankfully. But yeah, so I think it's just about being organized, but it is scary to jump into business. So I guess my biggest advice is having people around you that have been there, done that before. That's really important. Just learn from their mistakes, listen to podcasts, read books, do all that. So then you're well aware of what it looks like. It also looks glamorous from the outside, but it's actually hard work starting a business. So make sure that you're supported and make sure you've got, I guess, the finances as well covered, so you're not stressing about that too.
I do want to wind the clock back a bit because sometimes we find that where we end up in our journey comes back full circle. And, yes, we kind of highlight that there was the transition that you did make in that to leave Qantas and to start yourself up. But you have a background passion for entrepreneurship, don't you? Do you
I
want to tell
do.
us a little bit about that?
So I grew up, I guess, with family members all around me owning businesses. So my dad has had his own business my whole life. My uncles owned restaurants and petrol stations and all these different things. So I guess I grew up around business. And then, so I always had it there, but there was always the go and learn from others, go and make sure you've got a good amount of different experiences. So when you do start your business, you are ready, basically. But what I found, I guess, with all the different businesses, I've owned like a beauty salon, I've owned a travel agency, I've owned a registered training organization, so all very different. And I guess what I realized is I don't enjoy the day-to-day running of a business. What I enjoy is the setup. What I enjoy is the operations, setting up the systems and processes and putting the right people in the right roles, making sure there's accountability and reporting. And once that's all working fine, and then I'm ready for my next.
You're bore, you're out.
So that's what I was doing, is I was setting up all these businesses, and I thought, I love people, I love travel agency. That makes a lot of sense, and I loved it. We ran it for a long time, but after a while, I was getting bored. I'm like, this is not fun anymore. I'm not enjoying this anymore. So I sold that business and then moved on to the next business. So now our consulting business just focuses on that operational piece and helping other businesses create that sort of end-to-end operations that works efficiently, that makes sense, and that the owner is still aware of what's going on with reporting and all of that. So that's my, I guess, expertise.
Well, it's music to many people's ears, I imagine, especially as I'm listening to you. I'm like, oh, that's my person. Someone was asked, having this conversation with a colleague today about there's an event coming up for emerging leaders, which is obviously, as you know, the purpose of this podcast is really to influence those people in that category, which includes those who, are both employees inside of an organization looking to move forward, but equally so, it's about those who are early stage out in, wanting to start in their own business and are trying to have an impact, right?
Yes.
Anyway, we were talking about this event, and she started by asking me, how are you? And I'm like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. After years, one of the biggest obstacles for me as a business owner, as I'm sure many people appreciate, is that when you do step out, you are suddenly everything.
Yes.
I was a director of marketing, but now, I had one area that I had to be responsible for. I wasn't accountable for the day-to-day sales or the finance and all of a sudden you're like doing everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's exhausting, right?
It is. Yeah.
So finally I made the decision, right, to start outsourcing all the stuff that technically, get yourself a marketing VA, Kylie. Like you have no idea. Like actually finally confronting the fact I have zero skills in digital marketing.
Yeah.
I got to get that out of my space.
Yes.
And she said, so I'm onboarding new people and I'm learning about all this jargon, and I'm like, what does that mean? I'm sorry. And then people, of course, just assume I know because my background's in marketing, but I don't. Yeah. And then, of course, I have to interrogate something that I know nothing about because they start, like in these platforms that you're buying, they talk about all these fancy things. And I'm like, I don't even know if I need that shit. Like, really? So anyway, she says, she's laughing her head off. And then she says, but are you enjoying it? And I thought about it. And I went,
question.
No. No, I'm not. Truthfully, I'm not. I'd rather not be doing this. This is very evident about why I should be handing this off to somebody else, because I am not the person who wants to manage operations. No, thank you very much.
There's a lot of business owners in that same space where they're so excited about creating websites, or they're so excited about selling, these sunglasses or whatever it is that they're excited about. And all of a sudden they're managing HR issues and they're having to read P&Ls, which they've never read before, and they're having to do all these things. They're like, this is not what I enjoy doing. And now this is all I do, like day in, day out. And that's a part of what we do, is work out, well, what's your ideal role in the business? What do you want to be doing? 80% of the time, there's going to be still a bit of stuff that you have to do. Being a business owner, you still have to do some of that stuff, right? But 80% of the time, let's focus on what you love doing. And then let's see what support you need around you to make sure that you're able to do that 80% of the time. It's, it's not going to always be 80% of the time, but we want to aim for that. And so the website example, we made him the director of websites. So he got to be still front facing. He still got to do all the website design up front, and he still did all the stuff he loved. And then we hired a general manager and an ops person and a project manager to manage all the detail stuff, which he didn't enjoy doing. So it's your business. You
Yeah.
create the role that you want to create, and then have all the people, the experts around you to do the rest of it for you. That's really,
Now, Ranya, you make that sound very simple.
yeah.
And I,
Oh.
I know. Look, one of the great things about having conversations like this with somebody like yourself, right, is you will make it sound very easy because on the surface, the actual actions that you need to take are pretty simple and
Yeah.
straightforward. Yes, but let's take a look at it from this perspective.
Yeah.
And you're welcome to share your own personal experience,
Yes.
or let's take a look at someone with whom you know. So even your website guy. I mean, there are many people who go, I know I need to do that, and somehow I'm not doing that.
Yes. Yeah.
What have you noticed are the biggest obstacles or the things that get in the way of people being able to make those decisions?
Well, as business owners, we do find it hard to let go. Because initially, when we first start, we are doing everything. We
Hmm.
are doing the marketing, we're doing the sales, we're doing the client stuff, we're doing everything, right? So then to bring someone else on to do it, you're always in your mind going, I can always do that better. Or I can do it. I know how to do this. It'll take me 15 minutes. Or I
Right.
can do that. It'll only take me half an hour. But it's not the half an hour. It's the lead up to it and the energy that it takes and the focus that it takes away from everything else. So the whole exercise might only take you half an hour, but it's the before and the after, and just your energy gets depleted because it's something that you're not good at.
Mm.
So your energy gets depleted quite a lot quicker than if you're doing something that you're very good at. That's your zone of genius, right?
Mm.
So the idea is to do it in baby steps. So I generally get everyone to write down what is everything that you do. Give me a list of all the tasks that you do. And then I say, what's the ones that you hate the most? And we pick 2 or 3 tasks that they hate, and then we'll hand those over. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's hand those over. Let's build a very good process here. So then we know exactly what they need to do, what our expectations are, and we'll watch over them. Let's micromanage this until they're
Mm-hmm.
comfortable. And then when they're comfortable, they know this person's got it, they're doing it the way I want them. And then it's the next lot of tasks. Then we hand that over to somebody else or the same person or whatever it is. So it is baby steps sometimes because people do find it hard to let go because it's their baby, right? This is their baby they've created from scratch. So it's very hard, but there's a process.
Look, I really love what you've said, and I do want to identify some of the things that I heard are what could be very easy to skip over, but I actually really, and I look, and whether you know this yet as a listener with me, when I laugh, that's because I feel the pain.
Yeah.
I've been there, so I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing by association. So,
Yeah.
a couple of things that I noticed. So, firstly, you say, "Let it go." Right? Again, simple. How
Yeah.
do you how do you let it go? Well, the second thing you said was we have this conversation with ourselves. It's not really obvious
Mm.
consciously because
Yeah.
I know I have had the same conversation over with myself that I will do a better job.
Mm.
But at the time that I was having that conversation, it didn't occur to me that that was actually what was blocking me from bringing somebody else in that had the necessary expertise that could potentially have done a better job.
Yeah, right.
So I do think it's important to just highlight that, Rania,
Yeah.
because I do think if you can identify that for yourself, then at least it potentially makes that next action that you've said, which again, I do think this is a blind spot
Yeah.
that people and I am a big this is where I've made a lot of mistakes. I look at the big elephant and so I try to eat the elephant at once instead of just trying to
Yeah.
take one small
One
bite at a
bite at
time.
a time. Yes, yes.
Yes. So, I really love what you've said about even if they've got that dilemma, they don't know how to let go, or they, regardless of their opinion about if they do a better job at it or not,
Yeah.
the simple action that you suggest about listing everything that they do
Yeah, yeah.
and then asking them to say, "Oh, yeah, just tell me the things you hate doing." I'm like, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah. Get rid of half of this stuff.
I mean, that must be really delightful for you when you see somebody's experience in that transition from just being able to have a light bulb, or I mean, I imagine
Yes.
there would be like a light bulb for some of these business owners.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there is a fear factor of letting go, but there's also the cost involved, right? Because you've got to hire someone, you've got to train them up, they're costing you money. So that means you have to bring in more revenue to cover the cost of this person. So that's also scary, right? Because it's now freeing you up. There's no excuse. You need to go out and make some
Okay, you got to give us a story on that one. That's fascinating. All right, so sorry, folks, I'm laughing because I'm looking forward to what you're going to share about this one because immediately I'm drawn to one of the things I used to say about leadership inside of an organization. I think sometimes people just keep themselves busy doing the stuff that they shouldn't be doing because they're too bloody scared to go out and do what they should. Like, what the hell would you be doing if you weren't bogged down doing that shit? Like, you know?
too. It's like they like to keep busy and it's familiar, right? So even though they might not enjoy it, it's something familiar. But if I free my time up, then what am I going to fill that time with? Going to be held accountable to fill that time with. And some people are really like, I know what I'm going to do and I'm going to get out, then I'm going to talk to more people and I'm going to get more clients, and they're really hungry to do that.
Yeah.
And other people don't really know. And one of my clients, so I helped him free up some of his time. We allocated more responsibility. We put in a layer of leaders into the business, and then he had more free time. And then he started to panic. What do I do with this time? And I'm now useless in the business, and they don't need me anymore, and all this. So we had to kind of re-identify what his role, he's got to be a mentor, and he's got to be, going out and being like account manager, like dealing with the clients, talking to them about how things are going, mentoring the team. We kind of had to restructure his whole role, but also talk about hobbies. What else could you do outside? Because his business was his whole life, right? So turning that around, it's like, I'm getting bogged down. We freed him up, and he's like, oh, but now what do I do? What do I do with this time? So he's gone on his first holiday last month. Him and his wife went on his first holiday in such a long time. And he was messaging me while I was on holiday. She's sending me photos of the beautiful view and everything. I'm like, enjoy your holiday. That's great. Like that's something he hasn't been able to do in a really long time because he's been so stuck in the business, in the day-to-day. But it is scary for some people.
I love what you've just highlighted there. And not only for the opportunity, right? If we focus on the extraordinary value that brings to a person's life is remarkable, especially considering coming out of the pandemic. And we know stress and burnout is just really causing a lot of problems for people's health. So well done you on being somebody for people that can make that possible. And look, I can't ignore the fact that what strikes me about the gap there is the keeping oneself busy and not having an answer to what you would then do with your time. I mean, uh, I'm immediately, so a few things come to mind, right? So firstly, in a relationship, oh, there you are, you've been a business owner as a man, and your wife's been complaining for 20 years because you're just not available and you're never home, and now all of a sudden the husband's home, and I can see the wife go, why don't you go to work? You're annoying the bejesus out of me.
Yes, I've seen that happen, yes. That is, yeah. But they talk about retiring to something. So you're not meant to retire and just sit at home. That's not
what
happens, right? But you're meant to retire. So my father-in-law, he loves buying and selling stocks. Like that's his, and he does it in the US, and he'll do all the international markets. So he spends hours a day just researching what stocks you should buy, what stocks you should sell. And he's got his self-managed super fund, and he just buys and sells and whatever. And that's his hobby, but that's his retirement too. Like he spends 5 hours a day just researching.
Right.
So that's his thing. He's bought all the technology, he's bought all the, subscriptions to everything that he needs. And that's he's got his little office. He goes in there and spends hours and does his thing. And that's kept him going, right? That's keeps you having a passion and purpose, and you need that. You need something to retire to, because you find a lot of business owners, because I found the opposite as well, where they're in their 70s, towards the end of their 70s, even 80s, and they're still going to the office they might not be physically doing much, but they're still going into the office just because of that purpose, that, and it's their business. They started it. That's their passion, right? So having something, I think that's something our generation needs to think about is, what are we retiring to? If we do retire, yes, you can go on a holiday here and there, but you're not going to be holidaying all year round.
Yes.
Or maybe you can, but not everyone's going to be able to holiday all year round. So what are you going to be doing? What are you retiring to? Yeah, good
So
question.
do you find that that's part of what you end up talking with your, I mean, it sounds a bit like counseling in some
Yeah.
respects, but uh, do you notice that that comes up, like when this conversation, for example, comes up, do you find that that ends up being a topic? Like, what would you give your time to? Like, what is the kind of things you would replace it with?
Well, we use that as a motivation to help them give stuff away as well. It's like, what
Right.
would you be doing with your time if you weren't so stuck in doing? They send you a list of 100 tasks, say they're doing, and you look at it and go, okay, if we were able to remove some of this and you had more time back, what would you be doing? And they say, I spend more time with family. I'd, do this, or I'd take more holidays, or whatever it is. And that's kind of an incentive to push them,
Mm,
help them kind of remove some of that responsibility and hand that over, because you can't really
mm,
scale a business. You get to a point and you can't keep going unless you do start delegating. That's just the reality of it. But some people are happy at that point.
mm,
If they're happy, that's fine, they can stay there, but they're going to plateau, right? But if you want to scale and grow and go out to more clients, or deal with more things, then you do have to delegate, and you might have to be okay with 90% done, or
mm,
90% of the way you would do it sometimes in
mm,
certain things. And that's hard to get over, right? If you're a perfectionist and you do things a certain way and then you hand it over to someone and they do it slightly different to you, that's really hard.
mm,
But you need to be able to get past it on the less important things.
mm.
It is a difficult conversation. I've only got one client at the moment that's on that retiring age, and it's the father handing over the business to the son.
Right.
But there's challenges there of letting go as well, right? Because the
Mm-hmm.
father still wants to hold on and the son's trying to, take over the leadership. And yeah, so there's a bit of a struggle there. But dad doesn't have anything to retire to. This is his passion. This is what he loves. And he's still,
Mm-hmm.
so we talk about, we're keeping the office. This is his office always. And this is somewhere he can come anytime, even when he's not actively in the business day to day. But yeah, these things you have to think about as people succession planning or moving on, that they will have a purpose. So it's
It's
really,
a really great topic, actually. It seems like a common thing that you've been talking to about, helping them by bringing in other people into the business, which reminds me a lot about leadership itself, because ultimately leadership is about being able to have other people around you be effective in achieving what it is that you're out to achieve on, which is pretty much the
yeah.
job of a business owner, right? When you bring in staff, you want them to be effective. How I mean, if there is there anything that you've learned in that process, or and let me just say, I'll throw the question in a few ways, and you just kind of pick up on what you think is the best way to look at it from your perspective. But when people do that, what have you noticed about what has them, like if you had to give someone else advice, actually, they've got to do that and they've got to bring new people into the business. What kind of advice do you have them in what's going to help them succeed in being able to have those people set up for success?
Um, yeah, so there's, I guess, a few parts to it. Is making sure that there is a system that they can follow, setting them up for success. Right, is that you've done it, you've created a process that works, and you've tested it and it works, and you've documented it, or you've got videos, or you've got something to explain it in a lot of detail to someone new coming on board. So that's really kind of the first part. The second part is hiring the right person with the right attitude, the right culture fit. I would get some help around that. Get
Right,
a recruiter maybe to help, or get a friend to help, do a second interview, third interview, someone that's kind of in that space that can read people. Trust your gut.
right.
I think business owners sometimes don't like to trust their gut, but I think you need to in this space.
Hmm.
And if they're not working out, there's a probation period for a reason. So make sure
Hmm.
there's a lengthy probation period, like 3 months, 6 months, and that you're monitoring them closely in that time. Like it might have to be a little micromanaging in the beginning, and that's okay. Like I know micromanagers are seen as it's a negative thing, and you
Hmm.
don't want to be
Hmm.
doing that long term. But when someone's coming on brand new and you want them to follow a certain process, you might need to be a little micromanagey to start with, and
Hmm.
then move to more of a coaching manager, or different type of manager. Um, but I think it's important to have the setup first. So you're setting them up for success. And then the second part is finding the right person, the right culture fit. If you have to do like, a disc profile or something where you're seeing that they're going to be the right fit for your organization, especially if you're small and there's only a few of you want
Hmm.
to make sure this person's not going to come and be toxic to the environment or
Hmm.
cause any
Hmm.
issues. So finding the right person is really important. And then just training and supporting them, getting them to buddy up with somebody. Yeah, just setting them up for success, really. But also just knowing if they're not working out, just deal with it quicker Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Earlier rather
good.
than later is the
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, I mean, even though I know what you were, it was about business owners, I could actually see the same kind of principles applying for those who are in people leadership roles. I think trusting yourself, because with the process, you've gone through. Like, if you're in a people
yeah,
leadership role, chances are you've gone through the process
that's
that
right.
you've gone through, that you're going to lead someone else. So that's a great place to start.
Yeah.
And then you also said, which I'm not sure we do enough of, because somehow it's a bit woo woo, but trusting your gut.
Mm.
Like, I think there's something about, and I guess I go to the word trust a bit here, like
Yeah.
trusting yourself, that if you have a concern about something, that concern is an indication of you trusting yourself about that concern, and then being able to not ignore what that is.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think when we first start out, we might disregard our guts because we're not sure if it's maybe nerves or if it's something else, right? But as you're
Mm,
becoming more and more experienced, like you said, even if you're in a people leadership role, you would have done hundreds of interviews or many interviews before, and you get a vibe. I think just
mm,
naturally, even when you meet someone for the first time, you get a vibe. Either you think they're get along with them, or you think they're a bit off, or there's something a bit weird. And I think use that as part of
mm.
your, like, not only, of course, like use a lot of other factors too, but use that as part of your decision making process, I think. And I know it sounds a bit woo woo, but I think we don't trust our gut enough.
Totally,
I think we ignore
totally.
that part of it, and then we go, I should have listened, or I should
Yes.
have felt this 6 months ago. Why didn't I do something about it? And
Oh, the good old should.
woulda, coulda, woulda. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, look, I even had that experience. I think I underestimated just how much I used to be able to trust my own gut
Mm.
on things. Working in corporate for such a long time and leading staff and recruiting staff, you really get a feel for what works, what doesn't, and the decisions and all of that, right?
Yes,
But
absolutely.
suddenly, you get in your own business,
Yeah.
and all that.
Goes away. Yeah.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
like, what happened to my brain? Like, just trust yourself, Kylie. Well, what do you mean by that exactly? Because I'm not really quite sure what's happened to me. Is it the fact that I've got all these hormones after having 3 children? I don't know. Oh
But
God.
it's so true. We just lose confidence all of a sudden. And it's the same concept, right? You're still trying to find the right type of people, the right type of skill set. That it's the same thing. But for some reason, because we're new to business or we've just started, we've lost our confidence completely. I don't know. When I first left corporate, one of the big things for me was IT support. So
Yeah, all right.
I'm not very IT savvy, right? So when I was at Qantas, I used to call IT support and they'd help me with everything on my PC. But now I started my own business and and it's something's not working, or I've forgotten my password and I want to bring up IT support. And I'm like, I don't have IT support anymore. What am I going to do?
Yeah, yeah.
Things you're kind of cushioned a bit in the corporate world, I think, with all those
Yes,
extra bits and pieces. So going out on your own,
yes,
you don't have any of that. It's just you. You
yes,
work it
yes.
all out yourself.
Yes, big warning. Note, folks, if you're looking to get out, just be careful that you think the grass ain't always greener on the other side. Prepare yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, look,
But
the other thing I do want to highlight that I did hear what you were saying in that process was the part about surrounding yourself and going to other people who know what they're talking about. Now, obviously, in an organization, if you're dealing with the recruitment of people and you don't have skill in that space, you have a human resources team
yes.
inside of a bigger company, right?
Yeah.
So go out and get the advice from experts. And if technically you can go to a mentor or somebody else, one of your peers, right? Easy access.
Yes.
Probably the other area we underestimate when you go out in your business is to try and think that suddenly it's up to you and don't speak to anybody else.
Yeah.
But you did say, even in this space, that sometimes the best thing you can do is to speak to somebody else who potentially knows a little bit more about certain things when it comes to making those decisions. And I think you highlight there, Ranya, a very important part about whether it's a mentor or a business coach or a specific coach in a specific area or a community or a networking group. I mean,
Yes.
what about you as a business owner? So how do you address that for yourself when it comes to surrounding yourself with people?
So when I first started out, I joined leadership groups, like a peer-to-peer advisory board, I guess. And I joined that group, and there was all different businesses in there. So it was about 12 of us in there, and we'd all kind of share a challenge or an opportunity we're facing. We'd meet for half a day every month, and we'd talk through it, and everyone would give you advice. So that was where I kind of started. And that really was helpful because I had a mentor as well, but she was more like a mindset coach, which was really good because it's just, you lose your confidence a little bit, and like, who am I? Why are people going to listen to me? Like all these types of things going on in your mind. So I had a mindset coach who was helping me through things, but this was more technical business sort of support. But I also got business out of it too, because naturally you build relationships and you learn from other people, but then they also go, oh, hang on, I like your service, why don't we work together, or vice versa. So I use the accountant in the group, and I use the HR person in the group to help me set my stuff up as well. So I think it's really important, like you said, to reach out. So I'm still part of that network, and I actually chair my own group now. So that's been like 7 years since I've been part of that. And then I'm part of something called BNI. I don't know if you've heard of BNI.
Just give this the listeners what the acronym stands for.
Business Networking International. I want to say.
Okay,
Pretty sure that's dancing.
Okay.
So it's they have different sort of groups all throughout sort of everywhere, and you join a group that you like. So we've got 44 business owners in our group at the moment. We meet in the city every Friday morning for breakfast, and we just talk through basically what our pitch is, and we refine our pitch over time. But you say, and they're kind of like salespeople for you. So if they're out talking to their clients and their client happens to come up with an issue that's relevant for you, they'll say, I actually know a really good person that can help you with that, and vice versa. So BNI has been really great. Joining chambers is really great. Sydney Chamber, there's Hills Chamber. There's a lot of different chambers you can join that are local. But definitely getting out there, meeting people, talking to other business owners and getting advice from them. Everyone is very nice. Everyone's open, not everyone, but most people are very nice and open. Happy to share, right? And
yes,
and they've been there, done that. So go and learn from the
yes.
people that have done it, and don't try to recreate the wheel, I think is.
Oh, I love that saying.
Yeah.
Do not try to recreate the wheel. That is just gold. In fact, I remember my first boss ever, my corporate boss, not my first job, but he was a head of research, and one of the things he had said to me is, look, nothing's really ever new. He said, but the job is to take what you can find and then expand on it, put your own spin on it to see if it works in a way. And I've always really valued that feedback, advice, because there are people out there a lot smarter than us. I mean, for God's sake, if we just go back and look in history about what people have accomplished, sure, when we look at, the advancements in technology and the advancements in various things, we could easily look back and go, oh, who fucked up this world? Which, just to be frank, I know that happens a lot. But to be honest, I think, we will be those same people in 50 years' time.
Oh,
So 50 years' time, people are going to be looking at us going, why the hell did they do that? It's like, excuse me.
But it's true. And I think it's important just to work out who your network is too. So if you live in corporate, you'll have a network there.
Yes.
I still stay in touch with a lot of my Qantas network, and they've helped me. Even when I first started, they helped me put together like my first PowerPoint pack so I can go present myself to different clients.
Isn't that
like
nice?
So, the people in there are likely to help you too. So just make sure you keep in touch with your network. Don't isolate yourself. And,
those of you who are listening and not actually tuning into the YouTube or any of the videos here, yes, I just covered my face of embarrassment. No, I'm going to fix that one because it's not embarrassment. Yes, I would say it's embarrassment, but technically, confession, you may not think it because of who I am today after 20 years of investment in personal development, but I am an introvert. So my preference is don't fucking talk to anybody, isolate. So when someone says, go to a networking event, my immediate thought is, oh, you got to be kidding. I could not think of anything worse. Really? And in fact, even when I have gone, you know what I do? Take a friend.
In the corner? No,
take a friend. Hey, you got to come to this thing with me. Now, of course, I did not know that at the time that I was doing that. It has taken the wise version of myself to look back at my past and go, oh, that's interesting. Geez, you do a lot of things on your own, don't you?
But you know what? Taking a friend isn't a bad idea if they're an extrovert.
Well, yes, I'm
They'll,
lucky to have some of those.
because they're likely to go around and talk to people, and then you can just follow them and then kind of get involved in some of these conversations.
That's so good.
But it is overwhelming going to a networking event for the first time, especially if you know nobody.
Yes.
Being a friend is helpful, but there are so many different ways. Like I said, reach out to your network first. If it's too scary to go to a networking event or too scary to do something that big, then just reach out to your current network. Who are these people? What are their experiences? How can they help you? And try and start with there at least, and meet with them. Maybe create a little advisory board for yourself of people, family,
Mm,
friends, people that are in your network, and meet once a month and talk through your
mm,
challenges and get them to help you. Whatever it
mm.
is, but find a way to get some people's advice.
Look, I think you've offered up a really great point. I think a simple thing, a way to approach it for people, because let's be honest, yes, there will be a lot of people out there like me who will just like irk at that fact and will never step out that way. But look, I say that being authentic about what I know about myself. That doesn't mean that I don't do it now, because I've been able to work out how to manage myself
Yeah.
and how to go beyond what would normally stop me, which is my kind of expertise now. But what I would say, given what you just said, is number one, if you're in Sydney, you should connect with Ranya on LinkedIn, because she's really friendly. And you could go with her and she can
I'm
be
with
nice to you. But secondly, if you're not, obviously, then but take Ranya's advice. Like if you know you're somebody who is uncomfortable with going out in a networking environment, you really and you are scared about it, and you're not even sure if scared is how you'd frame it,
yeah.
do reach out to a colleague or someone you do trust and tell them that's what's stopping you, because you do not have to do it alone. I did that. I just got my buddies and I, you know,
Mm.
tell them about how fabulous it was, so that of course they'd always be interested in coming with me, but which is then why I became so good at that. But look, Rania, I do think it's about embracing yourself to be just yourself. Whatever
Yes.
you do, I'm not an advocate of saying just force yourself to fake it and make it. Don't do that. Just back yourself and embrace who you are authentically, and follow Ranya's advice by relying on the people immediately around you. I think that's just gold, Ranya.
I heard the other day someone doing a business shower. You know, we have baby showers.
Right?
So it's a business shower. So they've started a new business, or their friend was starting a new business, and they held a business shower for them to have all their friends and family around them to support them and maybe be their first lot of clients potentially as well. I
Wow.
thought that was a great idea. That's so supportive and make them feel like, hey, we're right behind you. We're there to support you. And yeah, because that's what we do in baby showers, right? Is we support the
Yes.
mom, give her all the stuff that she needs, and
Yes.
welcome to motherhood. And why don't we do the same for business owners? Let's support all our friends and family that are in business and help them get a good start. Why not? So
Yes.
I love that idea. So whoever
I love
starts,
that idea, and I think I'd love one of those for something called teenager shower.
that's a shower.
I know, doesn't sound right, does it? There's something missing there, but I mean, like
Commiserations, maybe.
baby shower now, I think that's like beautiful celebration. Yes, you're going to have a new baby, and then you get it. It's like primary school, yes, it's still really great,
Yeah,
and then suddenly teenagers, you're like, what do we call that one?
yeah, commiserations, I think.
Well, but I think what you highlight there, the thing that I value a lot, and I noticed I had a session with my acupuncture Chinese guru guy, and one of the things that came off that I was dealing with this week is my body was saying that I was experiencing a lack of acknowledgement,
Oh,
which is ironic because in my A game masterclass, one of the A's is acknowledgement. I am a big component of speaking acknowledgement into existence for people, because especially as leaders are often the people who are least acknowledged.
yes, that's so
And
true.
it's the same as a parent,
Yeah,
right? As a parent, you just suck it up, because unless they have children, they're probably never going to be grateful for anything you did.
yeah.
Now, that's not because there's anything wrong with them, but that's just the world of it, right? But I was like, I could see that one of the things when I designed this A game that I noticed missing for me was that I
Mm,
just had this experience of and noticing that one of the biggest complaints was a lack of recognition, a lack of rewards. And then I, participated in a communication program actually. And one of the practices in there was around acknowledging yourself. So it was about teaching you how to be that for yourself, such that whether you get it or not from the external world, which is what happens, and what it brought to my attention actually was that
Yeah.
it made me realize, like, oh my God, yes, we are so in our own worlds that we're not present to what's occurring for other people out there.
True. Yeah.
And so I just started going on this mission, and I went, oh, suddenly that's another A. Oh, look, I've got an A game. Oh, okay. So I do classes on A game and acknowledgement, and people would cry. I'm going, holy shit. Like, I didn't realize it was that bad, right? But
Yeah.
just this last week, I've got my kids are 17, 15, 13, and, they're kind of three teenagers all at once at that time is obviously,
Yeah.
it's just a challenge because, if you had one, they go through that stage and it's going to be hard. So you can give yourself over to that and support them. But when there's a few of them at once, it's not just with you they're dealing with it, it's at each other.
Yeah, right.
But the thing that I hadn't connected, Ranya, with acknowledgement is that when you're in an environment where people are just down about everything, no matter how much acknowledgement you seem to practice, that can just far outweigh your experience of feeling great. Like it just takes over.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I don't know. So the reason I say that was to go back to your point about the business shower and the opportunity of the business shower to have people around you who will praise you
Yes.
and give you the experience of really backing yourself, because often the voices of other people's giving you credit for who you are when you're starting out in something cannot be underestimated.
Yeah, I agree. And we do that as part of our sort of program. Where every 90 days we have like a celebration goal. So if
Right.
we hit that goal, we get to go out and celebrate. So whether that's going out, taking the team out for lunch, or whether it's, getting a bottle of champagne and having some champagne on a Friday afternoon, whatever it is, that's something that we do. We have to celebrate the wins, even if they're small wins. We need to have something that we celebrate on a regular basis, because business owners aren't great at that either, right? They just keep going. Yes, I hit that goal. Okay, keep going. Next goal. Next goal. And they don't kind of sit and go, hang on, we hit the goal. Let's go and celebrate. Let's high five. Or a lot of our clients have like monthly dinners where they'll take out their staff all for a nice dinner, and then they give out awards and all this type of thing, just to make sure that there's consistency in it as well. So it's not just every time they remember, it's actually locked into everybody's diaries, and there is a bit of, gratefulness. Like, we're grateful. We love having this team. Let's thank them. So I think that's really important.
That's fantastic. Well, on behalf of all the people you serve, congratulations, and good on you for bringing gratitude and success into their world.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining me today. It's been such a wonderful conversation. There have been so many light bulbs in today's conversation. It's been remarkable. And to wrap up on the interview, Ranya, I would like you to complete a sentence for me, which is ultimately you just about sharing what you believe to be true for yourself. And that is this: a leader is someone who
is collaborative and brings everyone on the journey of where it is that they're going. So whether they're meeting a goal or hitting targets, whatever it is, I think it's about the leader needs to be the person that props everyone up, giving them the resources, giving them the tools, giving them the access to all the right things to make sure that the people underneath them are actually successful. So it's kind of flipping it on its head a little bit. I think, one client of mine at the moment is in that dictatorship type of leader, and it's causing a lot of problems, right? Where it's my way or the highway. And that used to work back in the day. I think when I first started out and working corporate, it was a bit dictatorship type of leadership. Yeah. That worked back then. But nowadays that doesn't work anymore. And I think being collaborative, bringing everyone, and it's just much easier process, right? When everyone's aligned, when everyone knows what the goals are, when everyone's working to the best of their ability and has all the resources they need, how much easier is it for you as a leader to kind of just do your thing? So I think collaboration is really important in leadership.
Wonderful. Now, what's the best place for people to be able to find you?
Probably LinkedIn. I probably spent a bit of time on LinkedIn. So Ranya Akacha at my LinkedIn profile, or check out our website at realbusinessmatters.com.au.
Oh, that's a great business name. Real
Oh, thank you.
Business Matters.
Yeah.
Yes. And don't forget, if you're in Sydney, make sure you connect with Rania and ask her to get you inside one of these social hubs,
Yeah.
especially if you're a business owner or you want to step out into that world and you're petrified.
Yeah.
She's
To be
especially.
your wing person.
Oh, there you go. I like that, Top Gun. All right. Thanks so much again, Rania. Lovely to speak with you.
Thanks, Kylie.